here's an opening for you. CJ, is there any other product we have done before that legitimately none of us like? Because I think everything we have done before, at least one of us like the thing.
I'm
I'll
down.
I'll say I think this is the first time I've run something that I started thinking I'm not gonna like this. Like most of the time I think I'm not gonna like this, and then I research it and I'm like, I really like this now. I'm glad I researched this. This is the first one where I'm like, I hate this. This is as bad as I thought it was, if not worse. So yeah,
Mm.
it's that. Today
It's very
we're
good.
doing Bioshock Infinite. And then it rolls the sequence.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
trying something a little bit different here.
Yeah,
Are
I'm
you
gonna.
ready for me to
some
intro?
things
No,
up.
I'm gonna bring in the episode. So the credits are gonna roll, and then be like,
Oh, but
and then
okay.
and then no, then I'll explain to you like that's what a cold open is. If you're wondering what a cold open is, when there's a little bit of stuff before the theme song, before we introduce the show and all that stuff. Like that's the cold open. The
You
title.
did it already.
Right. We did it already. I
Yeah.
was just explaining.
Okay.
That's what a cold open is.
I'm aware of what a cold open
We're
is.
we're hot.
Podcast.
We're hot now, Fran. We're
Okay, all right.
we're ignited. You know, we're
Oh,
in
boy.
the
Uh-huh.
real episode
feel-
now.
I feel like I've been suggesting a cold open for a while, and now you're saying
That's why
it's
we.
fine, it's
That's
fine.
why we did it. I just did it for you. You were there. We were both
All right,
there.
So
I'm
welcome
thank
to
you,
the lore
CJ.
you know, or no?
Yeah. Welcome. Yeah, Fran.
Great.
Welcome.
Well, welcome to the lore you know, a podcast where some friends argue and dive into the fantastical and often convoluted lore of media that we grew up with and sometimes, most of the time, love. And here to bring you the
Right.
mostly correct facts about made up things this week are me, Fran.
Me, Ethan.
And I, CJ, have once again been given the great and unholy task of being the lore master for you guys today. As was said in the cold open, we're going to, I guess, dissect Bioshock Infinite. It's been a while since this game came out. I guess we're going to retrospect it a little bit. Hey, listen, we did the Bioshock episodes. We got some feedback. Do the last Bioshock. And we said no. And then we needed a topic for a video, and we said, fine, we'll do it, but we're not going to like it, okay? And then I looked into it more, and I was right. I don't like it very much. But,
I'm still very neutral, but all right.
yeah,
I mean, that's
think
because you haven't gotten
you don't know
the
about it.
lore to know
Because
yet.
I don't know. I haven't. It's not the lore I know
let's
yet. Got it.
let's
Yes.
get into it. And Fran, I think this will be great. I think you can be a like a conscientious observer, because me and Ethan are going to be arguing. It's like me and Ethan are fighting a war, but we both want the same thing, but we're both just fighting because we don't know any better.
And you don't know where else to put your emotions.
Exactly. And then
Just
you
at each other.
You will be sort of the third party that at the end
Okay.
I'll ask you, like, what do you think, Fran? And then you can like give it a grade. Maybe people love that in the podcast. If you just want to be like, is this good lore? Is this bad lore? Is this something
Mhm.
I
C-
actually kind of like?
lore?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you can how about that? Let's try that out and see how
Try
see
rating
how
it.
that
All
titillates.
right,
titillates.
we'll see how that goes.
Sounds great.
then-
Okay, so speaking of lore, I'm gonna pop us in with just a quick review of the first two Bioshock games. If you want something
That
deeper,
would be
definitely
very
go.
helpful for me.
Yeah, if you want something deeper, definitely go watch the video. But to give you a very quick summation, the first two Bioshock games center around this city called Rapture, which this super capitalist man, Andrew Ryan, created under the seas so that he could be safe from communists and other capitalists, but ones who pay taxes.
Yeah.
He's not a fan of that. And
Capitalism.
it did
Neither
not go
are
well.
we hate taxes here. Get rid of them.
We
That's not
No,
true.
I-
You
I'm
should
not
pay.
gonna- I'm
That's
not gonna
not
say
true. You
that,
should
yeah.
pay your taxes.
I'm not
Please
gonna say
fund
that.
your
We're
schools.
doing
That
a
would be
goof.
great.
Yeah,
But,
social systems are very important and exist for a good reason.
Yeah, and they didn't have any of those in Rapture,
They
and
sure didn't.
it got a little stratified, and also they did
Crazy.
discover how to make magical superpowers, but also in a addictive drug form.
Didn't they also like
And
experiment on orphans?
Mhm.
they sure did,
Yeah.
Fran.
Yep. Okay.
Uh
Not
so
even
yeah,
orphans, I think, like, some of their parents just, like, sold them because
Mm.
it's capitalism.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Hey,
It's
listen,
unfettered capitalism.
listen, this is literally what the tech bros want. They want to be able to buy and sell anything.
Children.
Anything.
Orphans. Yeah.
They're your kids. You made them. Put them on the chain.
Oh god.
If you didn't
But
want your kids stolen, you should have put them on the chain.
But yeah, so that is the world of the first two games. Rapture is this city that's all about, amazing leaps in inventions, but that are done so without any morals, and so they end up like destroying themselves.
Okay. Now,
And
Fran,
now we're to the
Folly
third
of man.
game.
yeah.
All right.
So Ethan is here. He is apostolizing the like Ayn Randian America of industry and capitalism over there, right? I'm over here and I say, no, no, no. That's not the right way, Ethan. That's not the right way to do it. I'm over here and I'm saying we actually need more religion in our schools. We need more
Mm.
Mhm.
God in our
Mhm.
Mhm.
lives. So remember,
Mhm.
in Rapture, there's no God, only men, right? That's
Does a god a day keep the capitalism away? Is that the ideal?
no, no. We want the capitalism and the
Oh, okay.
industry. But we
Oh,
just think
we
that
just need more god.
yeah. So
Okay.
let's now go instead to 1912. You remember 1912? It was a great year if you were a white man. And we are going to, instead of going deep below the sea, Fran, let's pretend now that you are Irrational Games and you've already had two video games deep beneath the sea, and you think to
Mhm.
yourself, what am I gonna do now? And then you go, I know. High above the clouds, the opposite, because this game is all about being the opposite kinda of the other Bioshock games. Also, it's went from 1 to 2 to infinity. So
Mm.
I guess that's there to denote that this isn't your dad's Bioshock. This is a new Bioshock. It's Bioshock Infinite and
But the same universe kind of
oh,
situation?
Fran,
Well, we'll find out,
Fran,
Fran.
oh, you just fucking triggered me
Okay.
so hard, Fran. I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you would
Okay,
say
I
that right off
have
the bat. I'm
I
so
do
angry at
this
you,
question
Fran.
is probably gonna make you upset as well. So, question then.
Yeah.
Um, is this a game like at all in the same timeline as Bioshock 1 or 2?
Oh, Fran, you made me angry again.
Okay.
You've really
Great,
set me off
awesome.
even a second time, Fran. How dare
Okay.
you?
Oh dear.
I will answer your question, Fran, but your
Okay.
question, this one is gonna have to wait till the end of the class.
At the end?
At the end of the well, I don't know,
I don't get to know until the end of this if this
two
okay.
thirds of the way through the class. How about that?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right.
You
Fine.
got trust in the syllabus, Fran.
No.
All
Never.
right.
This is why I wasn't a good student. I need to know
All right,
now.
fair enough.
The year is 1912, and we
Okay.
are, instead of being below the sea, are now high in the clouds in the floating city of Columbia. This city is modeled
Colombia or Columbia?
Columbia, as
Okay,
in
great.
the female embodiment of America, Columbia. It's a
Great.
lady.
And
And
the like motion picture production company.
yeah, basically.
Yeah, okay.
That's the idea. So American history background. Columbia is actually like a she's called the spirit of America. She's used to represent American ideals.
There's a really like famous painting with her like manifesting destiny.
Exactly.
over
She's really
God,
associated.
I
indigenous
love
people's lands.
manifesting destiny so
Exactly.
much.
She's associated with American exceptionalism and manifest destiny and just being an industrial superpower most of the time.
There's a really good branding story of the 1800s,
Right.
for sure.
Well, and if we really want to get into it, originally Columbia did represent the Americas. They had like one lady figure that kind of represented each of the continents that they knew about, but she was a savage who was a cannibal. And then when they started colonizing it with white people, they're like, oh, we don't want the person representing us to be a cannibal savage lady. We're going to have her be white and cool now. So
Oh dear.
yeah, it's a little bit of history
Woo,
behind that
white
one
people.
too.
All
Yeah,
right.
they do a lot of
I'm
that kind
sure
of stuff.
this game's filled with it.
But so Columbia, the city, is based on the idea of an American exceptionalism. You'll hear that all the time if you listen to anything about Bioshock Infinite. They say it a billion times. It's all about American exceptionalism. But aesthetically, it's based on the World Fair. Generally speaking, the World Fair that they are like hearkening to is an aesthetic of like pure white buildings in the neoclassical style, which is like
Mm-hmm.
the like Greek style with like columns and all of the Greek architecture kind of stuff. And so that's where our story takes place, in like this floating turn of the century American aesthetic mixed with like the neoclassical aesthetic
Mm-hmm.
of what like they believe that cultural buildings will look like the Greek buildings, even though again, if you look at cultural buildings like Greek buildings, they actually were very colorful and painted and not completely white,
Turns
but
out.
that just
Yeah.
happened to wash away with time. But,
But
whatever.
America
It's
loves that architecture style, hence all of the monuments in DC
and they
and what
love
everything looks like.
white stuff. They love things that are pure white because white is the color of purity. And
White is right.
it is. And that's a lot about what Columbia is based on. So originally, I mentioned the World's Fair. The city of Columbia was created to be a part of the Chicago World Fair, which is again a real
Mm.
event. The Chicago's World Fair started in 1893. It was also called the Columbian Exposition, which is where the name comes from.
Mm.
Oh,
And
Got it.
fun Chicago fact, that expo for some reason is why they have one of the 4 stars that they have on their Chicago flag. I don't know why they just wanted to put a new star on their flag for having an expo, but it was the third
It's a
of the
big deal
4
at the time.
stars. Yeah. Well, the 4th star was just a different expo they had. So,
Was
whatever.
this World's Fair the one where like shit kept like breaking like in real life? I remember there was a World's Fair that was just
Mm.
like fun.
Well, we'll get to some of that, Fran, but don't worry.
Okay. All right.
Um
I need
but
real American
in
history real
in the
quick.
Bioshock Infinite universe, the the city of Columbia was created for the Chicago's World's Fair in 1893, and it was like to represent the ideals of American industry and to show off like we Americans in our industrious spirit were able to create this, a beautiful floating city, perfect and eternal, that floats among the heavens.
Mhm.
And so they basically toured the city around the world as like a moving World's Fair to just show off how great America is, hence the American exceptionalism. I can't stre-
Sounds
I
very American.
I can't
Yeah.
stress enough the theme of American exceptionalism, because that's what the game is trying. It's really like, get it? You know how like Americans think American exceptionalism was cool, and it's like, yeah, I know. I read a textbook in high school.
Before everything was considered CRT.
Yeah, no,
Anyway.
maybe the textbooks are actually really bad now. So maybe this is
You
the
read a
first time.
textbook from the 90s.
Maybe this is the first time you're hearing about it. And God, if you're hearing about some actual like civic stuff from our shitty podcast for the first time, I feel really bad for you and I'm sorry, but that is not a good place for our country to be in. But we will do our civic duties and describe to you all of the things that the people who make textbooks don't want you to know anymore. That we're going to
Yeah.
get they have a banned book list. We're going to be a banned podcast list. We're going to be the first on the list. That will be our distinguishing award.
Excellent.
ooh.
It's going to be hard for me to kind of pick the order I want to tell you things in. So
Okay.
I'm going
They're
to
not just a storyline.
I'm going to kind of
or-
follow the storyline of the game, and then we'll bounce back to some of these things as needed. How about that? So
Okay.
the city of Columbia exists, and
Mhm.
it's floating around. And then there was another real world event called the Boxer Rebellion.
Yes.
Fran, do you
Yeah.
want
Pop
God damn
quiz.
it.
do you want to guess why they called this the Boxer Rebellion? I'll give you a hint. It has to do with Chinese people.
I do know it has to do with Chinese people. I
Uh-huh.
don't. Was it a racial term that I
Uh-huh.
don't know about?
Kinda.
Oh no.
Yeah.
There's so many I don't know.
This one,
Um,
I would call this one on a rating from like mild to spicy for like racism. I would call it like a lemon pepper amount
oh
of
no.
racial spiciness. So it's not like
I
the most racist
is
thing.
is boxer like a racial term for Chinese people from this era?
Kinda, but do you know why?
They don't
The
box.
best part about you
They don't
asking this
box.
is that like
Um,
a guess could be like way more racist. Like it's a
like
landmine.
That's why I asked Fran, because whatever she says, it's fine.
for those listening, I am half Chinese. If you
It's
can't
true.
figure that
So,
out.
so
If you
she
can't
gets
figure
to
it out by her
guess what
voice
boxer
alone.
means. She gets to guess
Um,
what boxer
I
means.
can only assume that they like were some of the underpaid workers within like the shipping industry or something.
No, you're way
And
wrong,
maybe they
Fran.
like got that name as a result.
You were way closer before. It's because, Fran, Chinese people do martial arts. They punch and kick. You know,
Are you
like
kidding me?
they box.
Seriously?
They're boxers.
They're boxers?
They're boxing.
That's what Americans decided?
So up until
What?
I guess
It would have been that
I'm
would have
just
been
outraged
so
at
much.
American history at this point. We're not
That-
even in the game yet.
I vote that we
Oh my God.
rename this the Kung Fu Rebellion
So-
because
No.
that sounds way
No.
cooler.
so apparently
No.
up until fairly recently,
Oh.
Americans called Chinese martial arts Chinese boxing because
course they
that I
fucking
guess
did.
that's
Sure,
just
sure.
what they had. And so the Boxer Rebellion was named that because all these Chinese people are doing all these punches and kicks. What are they, boxers? Jeez. And so
Oh my
that's
gosh.
why it's called that. And they just never changed the name, I guess. So, you know.
Oh.
Anyway,
Okay.
this was a real event that happened where a bunch
Uh-huh.
of Chinese, I guess, protesters, you can call them, or I guess nationals would be another good name. But
Hold on. Weren't the
Freedom
Chinese rising
fighters?
up against the Chinese themselves? Like it was it was rebellions within the Chinese government. so-
we're gonna come back and talk about the Boxer Rebellion a little later, also, Fran. But
But-
for the most part,
God.
the Boxer
I hate
Rebellion,
Americans so much.
the Boxer Rebellion is
people.
listed as a quote anti-imperialist, anti-religious, and anti-foreign sentiment among the Chinese people.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
And this was like a real world event where basically a bunch of white countries that were colonizing within China, China got really mad, and a lot
It's
of
like, "Get out."
their lower class people originally, and then a bunch of the like actual governmental leadership eventually got behind this cause of basically just like killing and kicking everyone out of there. And so
by boxing
right, by boxing them
Yeah.
and punching them in the face and stuff like that. But
because they can only fight using boxing, not with anything else.
yeah, well, it was
I
a bunch of
assume.
like Chinese peasants. So for the most part, they didn't have a lot of weaponry. So yeah, they were just like punching and kicking people, but they were doing it very
Okay.
cool. So cool that we decided to call them boxers, which is one of the highest honors we can give.
Oh God. Okay.
But-
I'm just.
This happened in
Hate
happened in the real world. This is real
Yep.
like,
yep. I'm just outraged at
global
of
history.
people. It's fine.
But in Bioshock, in the world of Bioshock,
Mm-hmm.
the city of Columbia exists. And Columbia is run by a guy named Zachary Hale Comstock. And he says, I don't like that this Boxer Rebellion is happening because it's anti-American. So I am going to intervene with my floating city.
Sounds pretty damn American. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
really does, doesn't it? So he goes and he intervenes with the Boxer Rebellion. He sends one of his kind of top military guys down there to like deal with it, and then they take a bunch of casualties. It's like 30 people, I think, that they killed during the Boxer Rebellion, like the 30 Colombian people who are killed during the Boxer Rebellion. And so Comstock, the leader, decides he's just going to carpet bomb China using his advanced floating city technology.
Mhm.
And then he does that.
Well, and
Okay.
it's worth mentioning, I think, CJ, that the American government tells him not to do that.
Yeah.
And he
Okay.
does it
Well, that's-
anyway.
yeah.
That's good. At
Ba- in,
least,
in
maybe.
a in a
Was
very
this game released in China?
in a very strange
Ever?
narrative in a very strange narrative
Probably.
dissonance, the American government is very upset by this and
Oh.
says you really shouldn't have done that, even though we were kind of doing that. So they say, Comstock, you put your city back down on America, and we're gonna deal with you. Like we're retaking the city, which really pisses off Comstock. And so he says, you know what? No, I have a flying city. I'm just going to do the world's easiest secession. And so he just
And just
flies
leave.
really high up into the sky
It's
and declares his own nation state.
it's
Okay.
1912. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Um, So yeah, he just secedes from the Union and decides I'm going to make
He pulled a Texas.
yeah, he says I'm going to make a more perfect America, but this time with more religion.
Sounds like
And
Texas.
and more slavery.
That's right. And so he takes up the moniker as prophet. He is
That's a good way to start.
he has declared himself Prophet Comstock, and he and his wife Lady Comstock are in charge of Columbia, the floating city in the sky that was once part of America but has now seceded because of their intervention in the real-life Boxer Rebellion. Cornelius Slate is his military guy who he sent to go intervene in the Boxer Rebellion.
Great.
He,
Just has a military guy with him.
you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
private contractors,
nation
you know.
state needs a military guy.
he is now upset with Comstock as well because Comstock has taken he is going around saying that he not only is the reason that they did a good job in the Boxer Rebellion, he's taking credit for that, even though Cornelius was the guy down on the ground who was fighting and his men were the ones dying and stuff like that. But Comstock is also saying that he was pivotal in another real life battle, the Battle of Wounded Knee, which is where America decided to wipe out a bunch of American Indian people because they were being they were coming right at me. So they just killed a bunch of them.
The castle doctrine.
Yeah, kind of, except it was their castle and they were in it, but they were like, these guys, they're savages. So he's mad. He's like, this guy's all about stolen valor. He said he was at that battle. I was at that battle. He wasn't there. And I was on the ground in China and he wasn't there either. And he's taking credit for that. And so he's really pissed off and he has become like a dissonant to Comstock.
Now, I will once again reiterate to any listeners, if this is the place that you're learning about any of these American history or just like world
read some more
history
books.
events, I
Mhm.
hope that you like go on YouTube and watch like Crash Course World History and like US history.
That's top
Great
notch.
channels,
Yeah.
highly recommend.
I
just
mean, I guess
Get
as
yourself
long as
out of
we're,
your
like,
textbook.
Sure. As long as we're throwing down, little warning signals here as well, we should say that this it's not gonna the things that CJ has started describing, they're not gonna get better.
Yeah.
Also,
this
that is like
game
an actual
definitely-
summary of what
And
happened.
I
It's not
It has
embellished.
I really do want to bring these things up though, because like the game developers clearly wanted these themes. They wanted to bring up these like real world things. And then they do just the most awful dog shit way of like tying that into anything. Like it's to no avail.
Mhm.
But you should
It's-
know at the very least what they're trying to do, I guess. Is that fair? Do you feel that that's fair?
Yeah,
Sure.
we can
Sure,
give
yeah,
some artist intent to it.
I don't know
I-
if this could be considered art.
artist
but yeah.
artist attempt.
Creators
Yeah.
intent.
Maybe like
Is
the
that okay?
desire of that intent, but all right.
I guess we'll get into it, but yeah, you've been
Okay,
warned.
well,
this one
so far
is,
I've just spent my
This one's
time
good.
being
This one's a
outraged
good-
at history.
This one's gonna be a good tie-in just to regular American history. So that's great. You know what? If that's the legacy of this game, is this podcast, that's not bad. We can make it okay. As long as it's
Just-
not
yeah,
the
okay,
legacy of the
you-
game itself.
You say that, CJ. Keep going. All right, keep going. You haven't gotten to the parts where I want to shout yet, so
I know. Well,
I've
yeah.
already
Move
shouted,
into it.
so
We've
that's just American
this,
history.
In classic us format, we haven't even gotten to the game yet. Like this is all just the background knowledge before you
Oh,
start
God.
playing.
Okay.
But
Okay.
we have what the fuck's his name? we have
Comstock?
Cornelius?
we have Cornelius, who is against Prophet Comstock, and they're all in Colombia now. And Comstock, obviously in keeping with the whole prophet aesthetic, is kind of like deifying American culture. He is saying that the founding fathers are all saints, like saints in the church sense. He's saying that the American ideals that he's preaching are like the tenets of the ultimate purist religion, and he is sort of the shepherd of all of them, the prophet. And so everything that is part of kind of the American mythos, like the creation around America and its founders and everything like that, becomes kind of reified into this new religion that Prophet Comstock is in charge of, where
Oh boy.
he is trying to make a perfect utopia high above, as he says, Sodom below, which is now what he calls the ground area where they have seceded from. Which,
Oh boy.
remember, if Fran, we're gonna do
Uh-huh.
more real life Bible stuff. You remember what Sodom is?
Yeah.
I know it's the root word of sodomy.
That's right, Fran. It's a city where all the sinners
Butt
lived,
stuff.
and then God blew it up.
Yeah,
Why is it associated with butt stuff then?
Because that's some of the
'cause
sins they
that's
were
one of
doing
the
in the
sins they
city.
did.
Oh,
One
okay.
of the big ones. They didn't like that one.
So God is not an ass man.
No, he put your cum
Yeah.
button in your ass to test your faith. And
It's
if you
true.
like the anal sex, you have failed, and you go
It's
to hell
true.
Okay.
now.
That's true. That's just how it works, Fran. I'm
Okay.
sorry to say.
Okay.
Ethan's exactly right.
I,
I'm
I
already
am,
a
yeah.
heathen. I don't really differentiate at this point.
And so Prophet
Alright, fair
Comstock is
enough.
going around saying, listen, guys, everything that's down below on the earth, that's Sodom, all right? But
Okay.
we're the chosen people.
We will be
How
we will
many
be up
people?
high, as if in a Tower of Babel, if you will.
Yeah, something
How
like that.
many people are in the city that's going on tour?
Tens of thousands, maybe.
Yeah, imagine like downtown
Okay,
Chicago,
so
like
they
around the
made-
turn of
they-
the century.
So, okay. Who are the people living in this? Like, is it everyone of high socioeconomic status? Like, they bought plots of land on this high
No,
city, or like,
no, Fran.
who are the people? What is the demographic?
Yeah, you know
data?
what? Let's talk
It's
about
kind
the-
of what
let's-
I need to know here.
Let's talk about the demographic
What
a
masses
little
is
bit.
he trying to control?
This is actually a very good slice of like the ethnic makeup of actual America. So there are there's plenty of people of color. There's plenty of white people, but as happens in American culture, uh basically immediately there becomes a stratification between white people and everyone else, and all of the white people get to live this like perfect life of this new religion that they're basically preaching, while all of the lower class, working class, undesirables in society, the black people, all immediately get relegated to a slave-like working class that is basically making everything run behind the scenes with no representation.
I want to not just basically immediately, but that was like the intent from the start.
Yeah, so
Like, that's-
How did he get
becomes
anyone
prophet-
to agree to be part of this?
Well,
I guess.
I mean, they wouldn't have known to start. Like, he seceded, and he has this loyal military people keeping everything in line, right? He has a military keeping
On
his
the floating
own
island.
right, keeping his own population in line.
I'm just because like these people had to be paraded around the world to show off American exceptionalism.
Well, and, like,
I'm just curious as to how many people he managed to
you would-
agree to be floated
you
around.
would probably be used to that in a certain sense, just as like the baseline amount of racism that exists in America, right? But to like go the next step further within our story, Prophet Comstock and Lady Comstock are the leaders of this city, right? But the prophet knows that without a strong heir to his his nation basically that he's creating, then it won't last. And so he and the Lady Comstock need to have an heir. And so that is where our character Elizabeth comes from. She is the daughter to the prophet and Lady Comstock, and she is a miracle baby. The prophet is going around saying that that his wife, Lady Comstock, was pregnant with Elizabeth for only 7 days before giving birth to her. So
What?
she's a literal like Bible baby. Um,
Okay.
and then to get to your point of like where this kind of police state came from, after Elizabeth was born, their housemaid, who was a black woman, went and killed the Lady Comstock. Um,
Oh.
Daisy Fitzroy was their scullery maid, and she killed Lady Comstock in a
Okay.
fit of rage and jealousy, and the lower class trying to take what actually belongs to the upper class. And so the prophet used that as a very easy excuse to
Yeah.
institute police state
Okay.
into the city. So
Okay.
once he became, he like had this golden child that was supposed to be the like savior of the city. They called her the Lamb, and she was supposed to
Um.
be the next person to lead the city, and everyone loved her, and then her mother was killed by this black woman. And so
Okay.
now it makes sense that, oh, well, the police have to keep order, so let's give them any amount of leeway to do whatever they want to do that. I'm a white person. I feel safe by this. This is great.
You should think of this place a lot more like the Civil War South. The people who are being police stated are people of color,
Mm.
abolitionists, and also
And the
we do hate the
boxers.
Irish in this one also.
Yeah,
Oh.
that one's fun too. We keep that. It's the turn of the
Okay.
1900s. So,
Okay.
Right, yep.
Got
but
it.
yeah, I mean, again, this is all way before like the civil rights movement even was a
Yeah.
twinkle in anyone's eye. So, it was very racist. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so let's talk a little bit more about the city. The city flies. That's pretty weird. How's that happening? Also, there's a bunch of weird advanced technology that we didn't have in the 1900s. What's up with that? There is a scientist by the name of Rosalind Lutece,
Okay.
and she is a quantum scientist. She is big on quantum mechanics, which again is turn of the century kind of physics. But she discovered this uh, field. She calls it the Lutece field that creates quantum levitation, which is the magical video game way to tell you that it can make stuff float, and it just does
Okay.
that, and you don't need to know anything else.
Yeah, I
And
figured this is just like steampunk hand wavy
it is
ness.
a very steampunk
I mean,
aesthetic.
functionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she invents this Lutece field, and that's the reason that Columbia can float
Float.
around
Okay.
without any other,
And somehow
problems.
move
Right. But
like
she
with
is also
propellants.
she is also kind of at the forefront of a bunch of this like quantum mechanics fuckery that just kind of gives rise to a bunch of advanced pieces of technology that
Mm-hmm.
is again really feeds into this idea of like industrialism and like, oh, look at all this cool shit we have. This really is a paradise, blah 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 blah. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
great if you live in the city, it's great if you're a white person. And so Rosalind Lutece is going to be a big character throughout the game. As the player, you meet her pretty early on, and you also meet her counterpart, Robert Lutece, who seems to be like her twin brother.
Okay.
They do like they're always doing like weird coin flip experiments in front of your face all the time, and it's really annoying, and you want them to leave, but that's
Can
kind
you
of
like not?
that's kind of their character
They
trait. They speak in riddles. It's so annoying. I hate them.
Right, yeah. They don't quite finish each other's sentences, but they speak like, "I already knew what you were going to say, brother. Ah, I
Uh,
already knew what you were going to say." Like,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
ugh.
That's annoying.
Yeah, it is very annoying.
Yeah.
And then one final thing to top all this, like the groundwork off, there's these things called tears, and
Okay.
they are these just kind of weird portal things that will appear every once in a while throughout Columbia. And the Luteces tell you that this is like a thing that they have been experimenting with, and that these tears are tears in the fabric of space-time.
Okay.
And you as the player are supposed to be like, oh, I guess that's why they have a bunch of futuristic stuff, because they can see into the future with these reality tears, and that makes new technology. Sure,
Sure.
I will
Whatever.
suspend my disbelief
Yeah.
as this city is suspended in the air.
Yeah. Once the city started floating, you gotta suspend quite a bit of disbelief. That's fair.
Right. Um, so the only other main player we need to know about before we get to the actual city is the Vox Populi. That's a rebellion group led by the Daisy Fitzroy, the Scullery maid
Uh,
who killed the Lady Comstock. She is basically gathering as much support as she can to rebel against
how
the
much time
Comstocks.
has passed
In the video game
between
or in
w-
the
between murdering the wife of the prophet dude and now? I guess now
well,
being the video
yeah.
game start.
El-
What, like
Elizabeth is
16 years?
yeah, Elizabeth is like basically a young adult at this point.
Okay. The police
And
state's doing a really bad job then.
no, they're doing a great job because all of these rebellions are failing.
Yeah,
They're
but
all
they
in
let the leader of the rebellion that killed the
yeah, they can't
woman
seem to
just
find her.
go.
She's on the lam. She's hidden somewhere.
Yeah.
Which
Like
she
I
gets.
feel like that part of
Thank
the
you.
police state's doing a real bad job.
Yeah, well, they're not too worried about it as long as everything kind of like stays in order, right?
Okay.
And so now we get to the year 1912 and everything is in order. And this is the Columbia that is the setting for our video game. And as the player of this video game, you come into I guess you're rowing a boat towards a lighthouse, which is a reference to a previous Bioshock game where you are next to the lighthouse to start. But in this one, you go up instead of down, so that's pretty cool. But you,
Okay.
but you,
Just-
I hate it. It's stupid.
you get to the lighthouse and there's a sign that says, "We have some gods and kings, and also man." It's like, I don't understand this sign.
So in this game, you are Booker DeWitt. Booker is a private investigator, a PI. He used to work for the Pinkerton Agency. Put another pin in that as a real world thing that we will talk about in a little bit.
Are we
But
gonna talk about how they went after a man for Magic the
yeah,
Gathering cards?
yeah, we are going to Fran.
Hell yeah.
But he has been hired by someone, a benefactor, to go into the city of Columbia and retrieve Elizabeth and bring her to New York City. And we are led to believe that Booker is in a lot of debt, and that if he does this, then his debts will all be paid off. It's basically a clean slate for him. So he has a lot of
Yeah,
motivation to do that.
he keeps having like this weird like flashback memory thing of like someone's telling me, "Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay."
He says, "All right, if you say
I-
so." And he is he's a little traumatized. He's a little bit of a drunk and a little bit of a gambler, which is why he's in so much debt. And
I thought you were gonna say, which is why he's a private eye.
which is why he's a private eye.
It's
No.
just he just fits the mold pretty well, so he just got into that business.
He was fired from the Pinkerton Agency for being too aggressive with picketers. Now, okay, you know
Hold
what?
on. What?
I
What?
will talk about the real world stuff right now, okay? Because
What?
that's his legitimate reason for being fired as a regular like member of the Pinkerton Agency, is why he's a private eye now instead of working for someone. So the Pinkertons did one thing, and they prevented the assassination of President Lincoln once during what is the failed Baltimore assassination, which is like a big famous story, and you can look up the drunk history about it, and it's very funny. But they did one thing, and then they just rode off the coattails of that for the rest of history, because throughout history, the thing that they're most notable for is being a bunch of anti-union like picket line busters. Like
Mhm.
that's all they did. They were famous for like infiltrating unions so that they could
Mhm.
destroy them from the inside. Most recently, they've been found to have agents within Amazon and Starbucks so that they can prevent them from unionizing. And as Fran mentioned, this last year, they went and they broke some Magic the Gathering nerd's kneecaps because he got the game too early, and he like released a video of him opening the packs, and they came to his house and like busted him up a bunch. It's that
It is-
Pinkertons.
It is crazy. It's crazy weird to me because like I associate the Pinkertons with like a cartoonish level of evil, right?
They
And
are.
like yeah, I mean they are, right. But it's just like the concept that it can come to light that a company is working with the Pinkertons and that isn't like immediately just shuts that company down, you know, that it like it's
I have I have
And
two
then-
thoughts. I have two
yeah.
thoughts. One,
uh-huh,
I think
uh-huh.
Irrational Games is like pro Pinkerton, anti union.
You think so? Okay.
That's the first one. 2K Games, I'm
Oh,
sure
we're
if
gonna
you
get
look,
into that.
not unionized. Second thing. Once again, dear listener, if this is the first time you're hearing about Pinkertons, find
Just
yourself some other
just-
educational content
just
other
go
than this
look 'em up.
podcast
They're gonna have
and
some.
your
they have
school
a-
textbook.
They've got a really good Wikipedia. It doesn't even have like a controversies tab. It just says history, and it's all the garbage shit they've done.
It is.
But
But yes, please
Anyway,
read something outside of school.
the idea that these guys were like, oh no, you were too harsh with those picketers. We're firing you, Booker DeWitt. So that's the kind of like cartoonish backstory we're already dealing with.
Great.
It's I'm not gonna talk about it anymore, but like that's the kind of shit that gets to me as far as people who are like, no, this game's actually really good. They use a lot of real world inspiration. It's like that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. So
It could be that the people who made the game only vaguely remembered things from their U.S.
No,
history
no, no, no,
textbook
we're-
growing up. Also,
We're gonna
No,
get
No.
Fran.
they're
Do
just
not
dumb.
I try
do
to
not
give them
even
a
attempt.
little.
Do not attempt to defend these people. We'll get to
Okay.
the end and we'll see if you want to defend these people.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
let's get through the whole
Okay.
thing.
Once again,
first.
I've just been mostly outraged at history
Yeah,
around
understand.
this so far.
No,
Okay.
all right, we'll get to.
We'll get to history.
Ah.
Don't worry.
Okay.
All right. So-
Okay. So,
So we
ex
have-
Pinkerton turned private. I got it.
So we learned this throughout the course of the game, but I'm just going to tell you up front because, you know, we can just get behind his tragic backstory. But he was a soldier in the American Army, and he took flashing back to the Wounded Knee incident we talked about earlier. He
Mhm.
was there,
Of course.
which is not great because he's a white guy. But he's part American Indian. So me and him
Oh.
are actually very
is
similar.
he? Wait, is he?
Yeah, he
For
is.
real?
Yeah,
Really?
he is.
I
feel
did
like
not
half.
remember that.
So
Oh my
Booker
god.
Booker is by blood part American Indian, and so his fellow soldiers believe that he wasn't up to the task to killing Injuns because he would be too sympathetic. So what he decided to do was kind of go the other way with it and
Oh.
do a lot of war crimes against them,
Oh.
which gave him the nickname the White Injun, which is very good.
Like
This all-
Indian actually or Indian?
Nope, the White Injun because he
Is
would
that an actual term people
be-
used?
because he would scalp his enemies who were also
Oh.
Indians. So he's
Oh.
a good one. He's one of us. He's a white
He's
Injun.
he's
Oh.
pulling the scalp off of this guy and he's like, I'm part Indian, so I'm part
It's-
Indian.
This is
so I can
not
do this."
appropriation. This
Oh,
is just
no.
regular violence.
Okay.
So he did all this stuff at Wounded Knee, which again, very tragic incident that happened between the nation, the forming nation of the United States and the indigenous peoples. And it traumatized him. So at least he got traumatized. I guess he felt deep regret and remorse for doing all those war crimes. And
Uh-huh.
so
Did he actually feel remorse for his actions or remorse that they were upset with him for doing the war crimes?
no, he was upset with himself.
Okay.
So no, he was
Because
praised as a
sometimes it's
hero.
misplaced.
No,
Oh, people
every
love that
oh
shit.
yeah, he
Okay.
was praised as a war hero.
I thought as
Uh,
war crimes, someone would actually have been upset with him.
no, it's America, friend. You can do war crimes. It's fine.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Um,
As long as you're white
correct.
or accepted as white.
Mostly white. And so this is where he also came across the other guy, the Corporal Slate guy, from earlier, who was accusing Comstock of the stolen valor. So
Mhm.
that's why he knows Comstock wasn't there, because he was there, and so was DeWitt, and
Mm.
and so he's deeply regretful for his actions. He goes to this like baptism at the river thing, which is a thing that Catholics do to, like, I don't know, recruit more Catholics, because in the original Bible story where Jesus is baptized, it's in a river by John the Baptist.
Okay.
And so there's this
Is
preacher
this like a
there.
born again
Well,
Christian
Yeah.
situation?
there's this preacher there, and he's like, you come into the water and wash your sins away. And he's like, oh no, a little dip in the water won't wash away the terrible things I've done. And so
Fair.
he kind of leaves. He leaves the army. He leaves the church. He like kind of puts all that aside. He meets a lady, which is nice, and
Okay.
they have a baby together.
All
But
right.
his wife dies in childbirth. Uh,
As
and
happened often.
and this drives him to drink and gamble, and hence that's where all of his uh gambling debts piled up. um and so
Oh.
and so
Am I allowed to guess things?
you can guess things, Fran.
Is Elizabeth his daughter?
That would be impossible, Fran, if
That's
they were in the same timeline as the original one. All right, Fran, you've popped this case wide open. You're a
I
bit of
feel,
a detective
I feel
yourself, I
like
see.
you could have. That's okay. All right, we'll get we're getting there. Sure.
We're about 2/3 of the way through. We promised, Ethan. We promised. All
so
right, Fran.
okay. So
All right.
Elizabeth is his daughter.
We haven't even gotten into the
And
heavy stuff yet, but let's
All,
do it.
all right, Fran. You remember the Lutices?
Yeah. The
Well,
scientists that are annoying? Sure.
they were dealing with quantum mechanics, right? But what they
Yep.
were also working on were these tears that keep appearing throughout
Mm-hmm. And they
the area.
reached through a tear, grabbed a baby, and gave it to the prophet.
They were able to determine that these tears were linked to other dimensions, other places at other times.
Okay.
And we find out that the Lutices are not actually brother and sister. They're the
Ah.
same person from different dimensions,
Oh
Fran.
my gosh.
And so they were talking to each other through the tear, because they were both researchers in their own dimensions, sharing research until the point where they were able to open portals between the dimensions.
Okay.
And they were able to both travel between them, and then that's how they both, came
Ended
to
up in the
live
same place.
together.
Okay.
And so Father Comstock was really into this, because let's do another little Catholic quiz, Fran.
Okay.
If the
My
founding
favorite.
fathers in this American religion are saints, but he's a prophet, what's the difference?
Oh no. Prophets are like the prophet Muhammad, and Jesus is sometimes
mean,
considered a prophet depending on the religion, whereas
not
saints were
you've said no, you're failing Catholic tests if that's what you're trying to do. You just named two not
You
prophets.
don't. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
what?
Just
Is
a
it in other
note,
religions
Fran.
that they're prophets?
Do not ever bring up Muhammad on your Catholic test.
Okay.
That was
But
way that
saints
was
were
that was
like-
way later.
There's like Saint Peter and Saint
Yeah.
Vincent de Paul.
Do you know what makes you a prophet, Fran?
You prophesized something to come to pass.
Yes, Fran, you predict the future.
Whereas the saints martyrs? Or only sometimes martyrs?
Usually, but
Okay.
you're right, Fran.
You should-
Prophets prophesize. They can tell the future. And
Okay.
Comstock here isn't just a prophet in name. he seems to have actual knowledge of the future that he
Ah.
relays as prophecies to his flock.
Oh,
And
that's how he gets people to follow him. Okay.
he's able to look into these tears that the Luteces have made in
Mhm.
order to see alternate varieties of the future, in order to prophesy different things that will come to be, in order to
Mhm.
make manifest technologies that shouldn't exist for many years, and
Mhm.
to generally plant himself as, the guy. He's
That's
the
a
guy who's
pretty
got all the
good deal for
answers.
him. Yeah, that's a pretty good deal
Yeah,
for him.
it's working out pretty good for him, right,
Yeah.
Fran?
Yeah.
And so that's why everyone says he's a prophet. They're like, "Oh
Except
my
for maybe
god."
the impotence of not being able to conceive a child on his own. But,
Well,
that's a side issue.
but you don't know that, Fran.
I'm pretty sure if someone's pregnant for only
Uh,
7 days, it was not your baby.
yeah. So,
But he does a bunch of
so,
other cool
so
stuff. Why?
yeah,
How come that part's
you
made
are
up?
you are right, friend. So, using the thing to see through the tears, it lets him see the future, but
That
it
he's
does
impotent.
makes him sterile and it artificially ages him. He looked like a very old man, but
Oh,
he's
like
not that
legitimately makes him
old.
sterile?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
he is.
Oh
He
shit,
is.
that wasn't
He
a
is.
bit. That's like
No, he
actually
is.
in game.
He is actually sterile, which is why when the Luteces
Oh.
completed their research on how to travel between dimensions, they decided to go into Booker DeWitt's dimension and take his daughter and bring them into their dimension and give them to the prophet as his daughter.
Wait,
And
so is that hold on. Hold on. That's why he Okay, hold on. Hold on.
yeah, yeah,
Him and the dude, other military guy, are not from this dimension then because they both are going, well, that dude wasn't at that battle. That's because they
yeah.
were in a battle
Oh,
in a different
Fran,
dimension.
are you telling me that storytelling that doesn't follow a linear timeline is actually very confusing and stupid?
No, I'm just trying to explain why they didn't see the prophet at the battle.
All right. You're close,
It,
Fran.
is it
You're flirting with the truth.
you're getting close, friend.
He also could be stealing valor, but that's also why they don't remember him there.
All right. Some other things
Uh,
we'll talk about Elizabeth. She has control over these tears, at least a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she wants to leave Columbia when you meet her, which makes it
uh-huh.
easy to like take her back, you know?
Yeah.
But she is housed inside of this place called Monument Island, which is this big device around it called the siphon,
Wait,
which the
Okay.
Luteces made in order to siphon
I
off her powers so she can't teleport away.
I feel like
What?
you're skipping over the part where her powers come from, CJ, which is
Why
we'll
does
one
she
of
get
the
have
there.
powers?
best
Okay.
parts.
Yeah, well, I would never skip over it, Ethan. I would never.
Okay,
skip over it.
so
But she
player
has
character's daughter is Elizabeth.
you as
Mhm.
again as
She
you
has
play through the game,
powers.
right? As you play through
Okay.
the game, you start to learn. It's one of the more obvious things because he's like, "Oh, my daughter, yeah, her mother died in childbirth, and I had to give her away, and." And then they're like, well, how old would she be? And he's like, oh, she'd be about your age, I think. It's like very stupid.
So it's really like thick.
Yeah, no,
is what
it's
I'm
like
hearing.
not
It-
that hard to figure out.
Okay.
It's weird.
But they really build it up like this big thing because you clearly are not supposed to fuck this girl. Listen, in a video game,
What-
when they give you a
See,
female
you said-
companion, you're almost supposed to immediately be like, oh, I'm supposed to fuck this girl.
You say that, CJ, but there is a weird like flirtation layer that goes on as well that is uncomfortable.
I don't want to read into that at all. I'm just gonna say
We're gonna ignore that.
it's fine in retrospect. They were trying to deceive us, I guess, as the audience. Because I love it when a game is
Sure.
like, fuck you, idiot. You thought you could trust us, the people making this game for you? How dare you? How fucking dare you think that we wouldn't lie to you of all people? We hate you. Poof.
This is why I have trust issues. Truly. Just video games.
But Elizabeth she wants to leave. And so she's like, Booker,
Fair.
please let me leave. But Booker's supposed to take her to New York. She wants to go to Paris. It's a whole conflict thing. It doesn't matter because they
Why
work
is she
together
going
the
to New
whole game.
York?
Because he needs to bring her back
because
to get rid
that's-
of his debts. Remember? He says, bring us the girl, we'll get rid of your debts.
Oh, okay.
He's still on that.
Okay. forgot that part, honestly, but all right.
Right. Yeah, because it's such a who gives a shit. But that's his motivating factor.
Okay.
But also like so Booker comes to Columbia to do all this stuff, and everyone knows it's him because Comstock, who is a prophet by being able to see into alternate dimensions,
Mhm.
knew this was gonna happen. He knew
Okay.
that Booker was gonna come try and take Elizabeth,
Mhm.
because he can
Y
actually see the future,
Yeah.
kinda. And also, uh, in another really ham-fisted attempt to like do storytelling, Booker has a big AD that's like branded onto his hand, which is the name of his daughter, which was Anna DeWitt. And so
Okay.
there's a bunch of like propaganda posters that are like, watch out for the false prophet. You will see him by his unholy brand. And then Booker's just like, oh, hey, that's weird. That matches my hand. How did he know that I was going to come here? And then you're like, oh, because he can tell the future. That's why. He's a literal prophet, kind of.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
so that's where we're at.
Okay.
Elizabeth wants to get out of there. She can't
Fair.
teleport because the siphon's in place. And also, there's a
Does
giant
she
fucking
know she has powers?
Oh yeah, yeah. She uses
Okay.
them. She can like
Yeah.
see. She
Yeah,
can like
I mean,
see other places.
Okay.
But she
yeah,
can't.
they're
She
also
can't like
they're like
teleport.
running tests on her there and
Right.
stuff.
Oh. Oh, well,
Like,
that's why she has
The
powers. They're
Luti.
running
The Lu-
tests on her.
yeah. The Lutises are like using her as a experiment to like figure out how to perfect
Our
this
favorite
technology.
theme from all the Bioshock series, experimenting on children.
Experimenting on
I
women.
I will shout about that later, Fran.
So
CJ needs to finish up so I can
we'll
spend
go.
a solid 20 minutes shouting at you
All
guys.
right. All right. We're going. So the the other big thing that they have to work against is the songbird, which is a giant steampunk mechanical bird that keeps Elizabeth inside of her tower. It's
That
like
Mhm.
seems
it's like
highly
iron
convoluted.
it's like irony, Fran, because normally birds are in
Are
the
the caged
cage,
ones?
but
Oh
the
my god.
cage is the birds
Uh-huh.
guarding it, but
Oh.
Elizabeth is the bird in the
Oh
cage.
my
Yeah.
god.
I
Isn't that
mean,
crazy?
Oh my
it
god.
is also like
What a
visual
juxtaposition.
stylings. It's a Big Daddy, but in the sky. You
Right.
remember Big Daddies, Fran?
Wait, it
It's that.
looks like Big Daddy? It's a
It's got
bird.
I mean,
it's got that like
it has a similar visual styling, except it's a bird
It's
in the sky
steampunky,
instead of a
right.
right?
diver
Yeah,
under the sea.
Yeah.
it's like
Yes.
it's
Okay.
like polished brass, but it's like a huge bird. It's not like
Okay.
a Big
So
Daddy
just
size
one giant bird
bird,
as opposed
right.
to
The
multiple
biggest
big
daddy.
daddies.
Yes, he is the Big
Okay.
Daddy. And it is named the Songbird, and you have to figure out how to get around it throughout the game. Again, you're playing through the game. Everyone's trying to kill you because you're the false prophet, and you eventually come across
The rebellion? Because where does the rebellion come back into play
you
again?
eventually meet up with the Vox Populi and Daisy Fitzroy, and they all have plot lines, and you run into the Cornelius Slate guy, and he has his own militia that they're doing their own thing trying to overthrow Comstock, and they have like a ceasefire with the Vox Populi because everyone wants to overthrow Comstock, and
Bringing people together.
Comstock's prophesized that the Antichrist, basically, the Booker DeWitt, is going to come and
The
ruin
false
everything.
prophet, yep.
The false prophet is going to come and ruin everything. And so they see him and they're like, finally, you're here. Let's go do an overthrow. And he's like, I'm not here to do any of that. I'm here to get this
I'm just
girl
here
and
to
get out.
take her places. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right,
Okay,
Fran,
okay,
let's
okay.
bring this. Are we ready to bring this stupid fucking story to a close?
Okay, yeah, sure.
What is there something you want to say first, Ethan?
I mean, I want to shout about the entire thing with like the Vox Populi and such, all right?
Mhm.
Okay.
So CJ has talked about some big like big points, but he hasn't really talked about like the flow of the game, okay? So I
Okay.
want you to absorb this early scene in the game here, Fran.
Okay. I'm visualizing.
Because the thing is that like as we described, this game is very much about like racial control, manifest destiny power stuff. Like there's horrible power structures here and abuse of peoples, and Booker does not care about any of it, right?
Yeah.
Like he's just like, there are terrible things going on in this city. I don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
At the very start of the game, you're like starting to sneak your way in. There's like a little fair going on in the city, and you pick a like little lottery ticket or whatever.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you get to this big center of the fair, and there
Uh,
is a, I believe, a black
yeah,
woman
I know what you're
that
gonna
is
talk about.
tied up there,
Yeah.
and they call
No,
the
it's
number
a
of your lottery.
it's an interracial couple.
An interracial couple, that's it, yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
they take your lottery ticket and they say, "You won. You get to be the first one to throw a rock at them." And so they hand you the rock, and then like you have the option of like, because BioShock was all about like, do you spare the little
Uh,
sister or not,
yeah.
right? This
Yeah.
one asks you, do you throw the rock at the interracial couple or not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
this game has
no
a
matter
morality choice system that's, do you want to be racist or do you not want to be racist? And
Oh
basically
God.
every question is that, like, is that.
I d well,
Oh.
and, like, I mean, the thing is that the Booker as a character, like, he doesn't care, like, he's racist fine. No matter which one you choose, somebody grabs your hand and they see the AD on it, and they're like, "You're the false prophet," so your choice doesn't actually play out, right? But
Okay.
this is the kind of racist world that they set up, right? Where they're like, "Yeah, these people are so terrible that they would string up an interracial couple and stone them to death in the middle of town." Like, that's the kind of bad guys that we have set up, okay?
Okay.
Now that matters because our character Daisy Fitzroy, remember?
Yeah.
Surprise, she did not kill
Mhm.
Comstock's
Yeah.
wife. She was just made as a scapegoat
Yeah.
Mhm.
so that he,
Surprise.
yeah,
I kind of
surprise.
saw that coming.
Now, all of this sounds like it is setting up a situation that is very anti-racist, right? There's like, look at these cartoonishly evil racist people, right?
Okay.
However, the way the story goes is that it wants to explicitly tell you, if black people had control, they would treat you just as badly as you treat them.
What?
Like that concept that like white races have, where they're afraid that if we treated black people equally or gave them power, that they would abuse us like we have abused them. They explicitly say, yes, that is what would happen.
Oh no.
Despite the fact that
Oh
Daisy
no.
is made to be like that, she is put into this position. Daisy is one of the primary villains of the game
Yeah.
Oh
because
wait.
she is you.
Wait. I think I've heard about this
Yeah,
before. Hold
she
on. This is
she
yes.
triggering something.
she
Is she
she
so she ends up they
It's
end up
triggering me,
overthrowing the
friend.
prophet, right? And then she ends up trying to take over and then starts treating people like shit, right?
she's directly hindering your progress as a player. You don't want to help her because you just want to do your thing you're doing, and she's like,
Mhm.
"No, we are going to make you help her." And because
God.
we have the ability to have alternate realities where we can see how things play out, we know that if you help her do what she wants to do, she kills everybody. She kills
Why
like
do I know this?
everybody
Why have I
There
heard
is
this before?
because it
because it's
was a big
problematic.
deal. It was a big deal when it came out, and it's really funny
Oh.
because when it first came out, it was just set up that they were like, all these black people who live here are just waiting for the chance to brutalize and murder the white people that live here.
That's
And
what
people were like,
racists
that
currently think.
right. And then, like, people were like, that's a little bit problematic. So then they changed it to say, no, it's not that all black people want that. It's just that Daisy Fitzroy, the abused black woman, she wants that. She's a psychopathic murderer. Even though she didn't actually do that one murder, she's very evil and wants to use, like, racial oppression as an excuse to do her own oppressing. And it's just,
This
it's
also is very
nightmarish.
problematic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's awful.
it's
It is
exceptionally
it is
poor storytelling.
nightmarish.
I mean, even if you had good intentions with the theme, the actual execution of this
No.
is the
This is
most
awful.
horribly ham-fisted attempt at storytelling I've ever seen.
Oh god.
So let us
Oh
then
god.
mercifully bring this story to an end. And
Ugh.
I'm sad to say, Fran, I am going to have to kind of start again at the beginning, but
Oh my god.
such is the way of the stupid time loop storytelling
Yeah,
that they
there's
have
a stupid
insisted
rift situation.
that
I'm
they
sure.
have insisted on placing upon us. So we'll get to this point. So again, despite Daisy getting in your way, despite the military guy Slate getting in your way, And
Okay.
despite all of these obstacles you overcome, you and Elizabeth are grouped together and you decide we can get out of here, but we need to work together. And so they kind of do that. Basically,
How did they figure out that she was his daughter?
so as we go
That's
forward,
yeah, very end.
Oh, that's part of
yeah,
this? Okay.
yeah. So as we go,
It's supposed to be a big twist at the end. Got
well,
it.
yeah. So like
That was just like a
Daisy,
medium twist.
Daisy Fitzroy is like, we'll let you progress, but you have to give us weapons so that we can do war against
So that
against
we
the white
can
man.
do violence against the white man.
Why
again-
didn't they
and-
just become boxers?
And again, because they're white, they don't know how to
Fran
punch
can
and
say
kick
that.
good. Yeah.
I thought they were
Fran can
black.
say that. They're black.
Oh,
so-
yeah, different kind of colored people. But so they attempt to get them guns, but they fail. They just don't do it. And then it is at this point, both the storytellers and the character Elizabeth realize that linear storytelling doesn't matter or make sense, so why try to make it? And so she says,
no.
well, I can just go to a different dimension where we did succeed at giving the weapons to Daisy. And if we go there, we can progress further down the thing we were going to do. And so you just do that. She opens a rift and she's able to muster enough of her superpower in order to send you guys to a version of reality where you succeeded at what you were trying to do, and so you get to keep going. And you see that in this reality, you're hailed as a martyr to the cause, because although you died in this reality as Booker DeWitt, you succeeded in giving them all the guns and stuff that they needed. And so there's just a bunch of like bloodshed happening in this reality.
Okay.
But it's okay because you're moving forward.
Yeah.
So now you see this idyllic city that's now aflame, even though from a storytelling perspective, it's not the same city. They're two separate,
Literally a completely different city.
storylines. But as a person who's making a game, you think to yourself, this is very visually striking. People are going to love this.
And again, the beautiful city on high is burning because you set the black people free.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
fantastic.
God. Oh,
Well,
no.
anyway, I do remember this part playing the game because the things that hinder you become so minuscule at this point because another thing happens that you can't progress.
Did I watch you play this game? Is that why I'm aware of this?
No, there's no way. I watched this in the secrecy of my own one-bedroom apartment back when I had that in my studio flat.
Okay.
But like the amount of it just becomes smaller and smaller, like the things that get in your way, and then Elizabeth's just like, I just teleport us to a dimension where this isn't a problem. And then she just keeps doing that. And then she eventually does the thing where she goes a little too far and she sees future Elizabeth. And future Elizabeth is waging war against the entirety of the surface world. She's absolutely carpet bombing everything. I think you see her carpet bombing New York in this one specific scene, but
maybe we shouldn't take her to New York then. Maybe that's a bad idea.
She's just she's like an old woman now, and she's like firebombing everything. Cool. And then she's like, man, it's a shame I had to do this. You should really fix my past so that I don't end up doing this. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So she sends you back in time.
To be fair, the amount of outrage in a woman could lead you to destroy entire cities. Yeah.
Well, she sends you back in time to the what you know as the present day Elizabeth, and she's with Comstock, and you're like, Comstock, you're a dick. I hate you. You bash his head in a baptism chalice thing until he dies, which again, symbolism, because it's filled with blood, Fran, instead of baptismal water, and he's the baptized one. Happen. Yeah, it's like the famous.
I feel like
scene.
I saw this cutscene.
It's like it doesn't matter.
Different universe.
It's like the famous scene.
I don't know.
All right, Fran.
This all matters so little.
It all matters. It all matters so little.
Okay.
Fran, I'm sorry, but I've deceived you slightly.
Oh, is there an actual twist?
There's one more twist. I mean, Elizabeth being his daughter is already supposed to be a twist, but that was gonna get.
That was pretty fucking.
Okay, we were gonna bump into that at one point anyway.
Yeah, you didn't get to the part, so I want to just lay it down here. Remember, we were asking how Elizabeth has her magical powers?
Yeah.
We learned now.
Yeah, when she was stolen from her original baby dimension,
Yeah.
the portal closed, leaving a little bit of her pinky in that dimension. It chopped her
Okay.
pinky off.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so I guess because a little bit of her pinky exists in another dimension,
Uh-huh.
she now has dimension
Okay.
powers.
I
Yeah.
mean,
That's just how.
that's
You know
that's
how
pretty
when
standard
you know
sci-fi bullshit to me.
you know
I'm
how
not
when your
as
hair
upset
comes
about
out
that.
in the shower and it gets in the drain and then you have drain powers your whole life? Yeah, it's kind of like that.
No,
It's just.
that was one of the theories in my head that she got it because like as she was being sucked through, she somehow absorbed some of the portal energy
It's
nonsense.
dumber
Right.
than that,
Yeah,
friend. Her
but
literal pinky
it's
finger
dumber.
gets cut off.
Right.
It's
And
fine.
even though there's like a bunch of other people who go through portals who are surely leaving bits of themselves, yes, like hair and such, like in other
Yeah.
The
dimensions,
hair is
that
supposed to
doesn't
come
count.
off your head eventually.
It's
We cut it. Like
The
that's a
pinky's
part
not
that's
supposed
supposed
to
to
come
come
off.
apart.
The pinky's not supposed to come off, so
It's like if
it
you
makes
lost
no
a baby
sense.
tooth. The baby
Maybe
tooth
it's
is just
just
fine.
it's just proportional to
vestigial.
the amount that you lost.
Wait,
If
wait,
you
wait,
lost like
wait
a whole hand,
wait a minute. Fran, are you suggesting that if one of her baby teeth was in another dimension, it wouldn't work? But
Yeah.
if an adult tooth was in
no,
another
that's not
dimension,
that.
then it would.
How would the
Yes.
dimensions know the difference between the teeth? They're both teeth,
Baby teeth are obviously different than adult
genetically
teeth.
identical to the original
Then why
teeth.
do the baby ones fall out, CJ?
Oh my god! I love
Obviously
that.
different.
No, I'm with Fran on this.
I
Anyway,
don't.
get to the big twist. Get
All
to the
right,
big
all right.
twist.
Oh, that wasn't
So-
the twist. This is
well,
just
so-
okay. That's
no,
just
At
suspending
the,
disbelief.
so what
Got it.
I've deceived you about is yes, Elizabeth has been missing a bit of her pinky throughout the entire game. It's a
Oh,
plot
oh
point
no.
that comes up every once in a while.
If
but
she
now that-
finds it, does she lose her powers?
Well, Fran, here's what's gonna happen. All right, you've just beaten Comstock to fucking death. Okay,
Yeah.
and then
Fuck that guy.
after you do so, Elizabeth is like, wait a second. You know something about why my pinky's missing. And he's like, what? No, I don't. I just met you here or whatever. And then she's like, no. Something's not adding up and I don't know why. And then she like has an epiphany and it's just the dumbest fucking shit. And there's been this like reference to like bird cage and cage throughout the
Yeah.
entire game, which I said because of the layers, like a bird in a cage. But then it turns out that the songbird is controlled by a melody that you play on a big organ. And if you
Oh.
type in cage on the piano, like C-A-G-E,
Yeah.
if you play that melody, you can control Big Bird. And
Oh,
so
cool.
she's like, it's weird that I can remember that now. That's actually kind of wild. I'm going to use my giant bird to blow up the siphon, the thing that's been keeping her not able to use her full powers the whole game.
Cool.
And so she does that.
Mhm.
And she blows up the siphon, and she
Great.
is like
Good for her.
immediately like, oh, I know why I know you. I can't believe I forgot this. This is crazy. I actually can see across all dimensions because of my dimensional power. You know that,
Okay.
right? And you're like, okay. And she's like, look, let's go back to the beginning of the story and let me explain. And so you get this long sequence of explanation things where you
Oh,
just
God.
go through a bunch of magical
my favorite.
doorways. And she just explains the whole plot, but the real version now. Because
Best storytelling is when it has to be told to you and hand-fed to you directly.
when drunken gambling addict Booker DeWitt was in way over his head, one Robert Lutece, you remember him as one of the Lutesses, came to him
Yep.
and said, hey, if you give us your baby, we will wipe away your debts and it'll be cool, which is where the phrase give us the child and or give us the girl and we'll wipe away your debts come from. It came from this moment, not the other moment when he was supposed to bring her to New York. What happened is the Lutesses figured out how to open portals between worlds and they started working together and working for Comstock. Comstock used his ability to peer into all the dimensions to become a prophet and then also made him sterile and made him old.
Okay.
And so he wanted a genetic child because he's one of those guys, right? He wants his seed to blossom. But looking through all the portals has rendered him old and sterile. And so he's like, well, that's going to be problematic. But he goes to his lead scientists, the Lutesses, and says, is there anything you can do to help me? And they're like, Well, there's an alternate reality where you didn't look through all those portals and become
Oh my
old and
gosh.
sterile, and we could just take that baby and give it
It's
to
him.
you. And they were like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, let's go do that. So the
Yeah.
Lutesses steal Anna, who becomes Elizabeth, because as we find out, Prophet Comstock is an alternate version of you, Booker
course.
DeWitt.
Of
You were the enemy the whole game. Don't you see,
Cool.
Fran? And then Elizabeth, and then
Yes.
it shows where the baby's
So-
like reaching through the portal and gets their
Yeah.
little pinky chopped off.
Uh-huh.
But then,
Yes. So don't you do you see the clever bits now, Fran?
No.
Because the divergent point in the story is when Booker was like, "Oh, I don't know about getting a Catholic baptism and starting over." But the other
remember the
version
baptism,
did get
Fran?
he did get that baptism and
Oh.
changed his name to Comstock.
He was
And
a
so
born
what-
again
Is
Christian.
that what happens when you become born again?
He decided
Yeah.
he wanted a new name, Fran.
He did that.
Okay.
And so then the other guy was like, "You weren't there at Wounded Knee, but
Oh,
he
but he
was.
was.
It's just
He
his
couldn't
name was
recognize
different
him
and
because he was old. Because it makes you sterile and old,
and
Fran.
old."
We said it every time. It also make you and old, which is why he
Ah.
doesn't look like you. He looked like an
Mm.
old man.
To be fair,
And-
a lot of old white men look the same.
And
get
so,
it.
and so Elizabeth is like, you started this. You gave me up as a child to yourself from a different dimension. And that's why all of this is happening. And the research on me was why the Lutesses were able to help you look into the future to be a prophet, man. And then you knew the origin of my birth, and Lady Comstock knew the origin of my birth. And she was getting more and more upset with
That it wasn't her
having all
daughter.
this knowledge because she thought that that was a love child between the
the
prophet
maid?
and Lutess. No, because she's
Oh,
white.
Lutess. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Because she has
Mixed children don't
dimension
exist.
because she has dimensional powers. So she was like, "Oh, you had an affair with the scientist who did all the dimensional power stuff. I'm going to tell everyone that that's not your real kid." So he killed her so she
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's-
tell it,
that's
and
correct.
then used that as an excuse to blame on the scullery maid in order to
Mm.
initiate a police state that allowed him to rule for 1,000 years.
Actually, 1,000 years?
No,
It
just
was like
until the
60.
It's like
start of
10
the
years.
game. Yeah, just
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah,
But-
it is.
And then
Were you gonna bring up the series connection that like isn't
Oh,
part of the
yeah,
plot but is just
Fran.
nightmarish?
Yeah, so how
Oh,
does this actually
Fran,
connect to Bioshock
the-
other
in-
than the usage of children and women
Which
for
is-
experimentation?
Okay, Fran, in the game, the
Okay.
Lutesses from the Lutesses standpoint,
Uh-huh.
they see Father Comstock getting more and more crazy and
Mhm.
wanting to like rule the world basically. And they continued their experimentation on these like quantum entanglement things.
Mhm.
And then I guess, quote, they did enough experiments so that the Lutesses spanned all of the possible realities and became as gods, which is why they're so annoying and they just teleport through the whole game and give you exposition in riddles because they have become gods of mischief, I guess, via
Okay.
science or some shit.
All right.
So they're in every reality trying to steer the plot of the game, you as the player. Whatever.
Whatever.
These tears in space and time, Fran, become
Mhm.
two-way streets, though. Because in the game, I didn't tell you that there are the actual game mechanics. We didn't talk about any game mechanics, Fran. But like in the other Bioshock games, you get magical potions that you drink that give you fire power and ice
Yeah.
power and lightning power and stuff like that.
Okay.
Those are called vigors. Okay? Which is
Okay.
different because if you remember the other Bioshock episode, those were called Atom. That was Atom.
Yes.
These are Vigor. Two completely different things.
Okay.
Or are they, Fran? Because
I don't
the
know.
Finks, Jeremiah and Albert, were able to use these dimensional tears to just get a little peek into other dimensions. And in other dimensions, there's other things going on. Like in other dimensions, it turns out sometimes they like to build their city underwater. They don't
Oh,
need
no.
Sky City, they need Underwater City. And so
Okay.
they peer into the plot. They use the interdimensional rift to listen to our podcast on Bioshock 1 and 2. And they
Mhm.
go, Yi Sung Chang, he's doing research on this thing called Atom and Big Daddies. What if we use that research and make things called Vigors and Songbird? Those things would be way more aesthetically pleasing in our little universe than to do the injection things that gross people out. They don't like
Okay.
to stick big needle in arm. They'll just drink a potion now and it will give them
Okay.
fire powers.
It
So these finks have stolen the technology between the realities when an actual the in-game explanation is Jeremiah Fink from Bioshock Infinite got in contact with one of the characters from Bioshock 1, Yi Su Xing, who
Okay.
invented atom injections,
Okay.
and they collaborated together to create this imprinting process by which they imprint big daddies onto little sisters, which is the
Yep.
same process they use to imprint Songbird onto Elizabeth, which is why
Mm,
Songbird is her protector, like a big daddy is to a little
got it.
sister. And it's
Okay.
also why they have all this futuristic technology, because they got it from Rapture,
it
Fran.
Okay.
it is, but it's more
All
than
right.
that. Like, so at the start, it is like, wow, this they've made, like, they're like, we're gonna start fresh, we're gonna do Air City now, and then you start
Mhm.
playing and you're like, this seems like a lazy copy paste of Rapture, and then they were like,
Just in the
no,
air.
it's an alternate dimension Rapture, so
This
it's
is
not
this
lazy.
dimension's rapture. Because as
And so
Elizabeth tells you, she peers into all of the realities. And in
Oh.
every reality there's a lighthouse and a city and a bad
Mm,
guy. And there's always someone who's trying to beat the bad guy, and then it turns out the someone trying to beat the bad guy
is the
doesn't
bad
have
guy.
free will or some shit. Who cares? At this
Okay.
point, we're just making up ways to tie in the games together because we made it to the end of the game and we forgot to tell you why it's called Bioshock Infinite. It's because there's an infinite Bioshocks. And so you think to yourself,
Mm,
oh, that means there could be an infinite number of endings depending on how racist I was during the video game.
the answer is no.
Bioshock Infinite endings. And then Elizabeth very confusingly explains to you that the reality of the Elizabeth, where she was a dictator who decided to destroy the whole world,
Yeah.
needs to be stopped. Every Elizabeth agrees on this, including the ones doing the world genocide.
I
And
don't
you're
know
Mhm.
about that.
and you say, but Elizabeth, everything's fine now. Look, I killed Prophet Comstock, the version of me that was a no goodin, and now you and I can be father and daughter for realsies, and we can start fresh. And then she brings you to the dimension between dimensions, where you see the starting area of every Bioshock game, which is a lighthouse. Remember, Fran? I said there was a
Mhm.
lighthouse at the
it's
beginning.
Uh-huh.
I
And
just want you, imagine, like, actual, you look down at your hands and they are just big chunks of ham now, and it's just that is your
just
reality that you
force feeding it
experience.
into you. And they're saying, don't you see, Booker slash Comstock? Although you killed him in this reality, there's a Bioshock infinite number of realities where Comstock is still, his plan is still going, and there will be a Bioshock infinite number of Elizabeths who will do a Bioshock infinite number of murders. And he goes,
Okay.
oh no, what do we do, Elizabeth? And she says, let me show you. And she teleports him back to the pivotal moment. That one tiny moment I brought up in the middle that I just glossed over, where I said he was getting baptized in a river.
Uh-huh.
And Elizabeth says this is the moment where evil Comstock was made and Booker DeWitt dies. And sometimes it's the moment where Booker DeWitt doesn't die, but still exists and becomes the protagonist to a video game. But if
Okay.
I kill you for some reason, the specific you that's you right now, here in this junction point, we'll stop it all from happening. And in the final fuck you moment of the video game to you, it gives you the choice. Do you want to die or do you want to live? And while you're choosing which one you want to do, a bunch of Elizabeths come out of teleporters, all from different
Okay.
realities where different things happened. Presumably more interesting endings where you got to choose how you got there. And they all push you under the water in a forced baptism, killing Booker DeWitt before you're even able to choose if you want to live or die. And everything goes black as all of the Elizabeths start to disappear from reality. The sins of Booker washed away in one final baptism in a desperate attempt to try and theme the end of the game around literally anything. As it all cuts to black, credits roll. But then there's a behind the scenes where he wakes up and he's scared, like he had a bad dream. Booker wakes up, he's like, oh, what's wrong? And goes over to his daughter's crib where Anna is in the crib crying. And this is the ending.
Okay.
He still
So it was
does
all a dream?
exist. So
You know what, Fran? You're wrong, but that's a lot better. I like
all
that
a
a
dream.
lot
It's
better
like
to just say
Roseanne.
it was all
the
Whatever.
game designer, the lead designer has gone on record to say he was in an interview and they said there were a lot of people that were confused by the ending or wanted to know what the ending meant or represented or
Just
what do
what?
you created this, what do you say? And that motherfucker had the audacity to look that person in the face and said, well, this whole game's about ambiguity and ambiguous outcomes and ambiguous endings. And so I don't think any one ending is more right than the other. And see, so he said, so what was your intention with the ending? And he said, I don't know why my intention would mean anything more to anyone than anything else. To which he might as well just responded, we didn't know what we were doing. We ended it
Right.
stupid. We ended it really dumb. And we were like, you figure out a story. We couldn't be fucked.
I God, I wish that I was that interviewer at that time. Like, he really needed to pound that guy, just say, all right, well, my interpretation is that this is a really bad and lazy way for you to end it. Do you have a better interpretation, or is mine the most valid interpretation?
It's like, so like the Lutices are like chaos gods. They're the ones who bring you into the story. They're your like narrator. They're supposed to be kind of your
Mhm.
constant companion as far as like keeping narrative flow, even though their very existence defies synchronicity. And so the reason that you as the character don't remember all of the backstory is because you have played this game so many
Uh,
times and failed so many times that every time they try and like start it up again in their little experiment to like get you to run through this lighthouse, this version, you
mhm,
like forget again, you like forget another part of your background to the point of when you as the player start playing, you
mm,
just don't have any backstory, which is why all you're left with is this vague idea of I need to save the girl to get rid of my debts because originally they like you as the character knew what happened to your daughter, you gave it
mhm.
to that guy, but if they revealed the story too early it wouldn't be that
Mhm.
interesting, so they had to give him amnesia and give him some dumb reason why he didn't have any motivation to be doing
Right.
this other than this vague idea of I need to save this girl, which is because it's his daughter and he wants to save her, like he has
Mhm.
remorse over what he's done, but he forgot that over time. So now he just thinks he's
But
being paid to
Mhm.
do it.
isn't there technically a universe where his wife didn't die in
That's the thing,
childbirth then?
Fran. There's an infinite number of universes. That
Like,
means
why
there's
is
an
it him
infinite
getting
number of
baptized or not?
universes where this doesn't happen
Yeah.
anyway.
Well,
Also,
you see,
doesn't that
Fran, there's
imply
always a lighthouse, Fran. So even if that didn't happen, then the other is good.
hold
Oh,
on, when did the baptism happen? Before he met his wife? Or after
yes,
he met his
Uh,
wife?
before.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
It
So,
was after the wounded knee thing and he was feeling
Yeah.
all right.
Okay,
remorseful.
got it.
Finish
Got it.
finish your last question, Fran,
There's
and then I'm
still a
gonna
universe where
explode.
his wife didn't die.
No, she's dead in
child.
all of them.
No, but like there
Yeah,
technically
whatever.
is one.
Well,
Okay.
no.
Yeah, sure,
Well,
whatever.
I don't. Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. That's the thing. It doesn't
doesn't.
matter. These realities don't matter. We don't see them. They don't exist. Yeah, I hate multiverse because you could just be like,
Here, let me.
It's I don't know. Anything's nothing
See.
matters. It doesn't matter. Fucking Morty. You just don't think about it.
CJ, you're getting a little mad here. I assumed that this wouldn't come up in your research part. So let me tie it together for you because
Please, Ethan, please.
yes. So, Fran,
You think it's to be mad now?
Yeah, it's Ethan's
yeah,
turn.
I get to be
great.
mad.
Yes,
I get to
yes,
be
Ethan.
mad now, and I get to tie this
Yes.
in a hideous bow for you here, Fran.
Love it. Please.
So, you might recall from our previous Bioshock episode, we had Bioshock 1, which a lot of people liked, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
Bioshock 2 came along. It was written and made by a different crew, right? And
Mhm.
some people say they like the gameplay, but overall most people said that the story was not very good, right? And that it didn't really understand like what Bioshock 1 was doing. So with
Yeah.
Bioshock Infinite, they brought back the original writers, okay?
Mm.
The original writers then stole the story of Bioshock 2 and retold it, but worse. If you recall, the story of Bioshock 2 is that Eleanor Lamb is a magical child who can save the universe, but she has two different parental figures who are each trying to control her morals, and in the end, the father figure makes a sacrifice for her. And then in this one, Elizabeth the Lamb is a magical child who has two parental figures that are trying to control her moral universe, and the father has to make a sacrifice for her. And then, in order to explain why they were so lazy and hackneyed in copying the previous game, they decided to say this is an alternate universe retelling of the exact same story, but worse.
Don't you see?
But
Fran?
also in the
There's
sky.
always a lighthouse,
And
there's
also in
always
the sky.
There's always a man, and there's always a city. Fran, don't you
And
see?
capitalism.
And this time, the father figure and the bad guy were the same guy, the literal
So-
same guy.
So
Whoa.
why were they so insistent on making real life events tie into this one?
That's the thing, Fran. They could have used
Was there
this
really
as
any reason why?
they
So-
could have used this as like an opportunity to like denounce
Like, actually
these like
critique?
American things. Yeah, or to
Yeah.
like come up with anything.
If
Because that's
you-
what I'm saying. Okay. Do you want to say something? Because I want to.
It's not here now.
I want to cap this off with just like a talk about the World's Fair, the thing that this is based
okay,
off of.
Okay, you can go wild on it, but I'm going to tell you the actual reason, Fran. The actual reason is because the writers of this game are smart. They're bad, but they are smarmy early 2000 centrists who were very into the both
Oh.
sides thing. And in the
Mm.
original Bioshock, they were like, both sides on capitalism and populism. And in this one, they were like, let's go even farther. Let's do both sides on slavery and violent uprising. Like,
This
both
was really
sides,
developed by
like,
white men. Is what
yeah,
I'm
he's
hearing.
like, listen, slavery was bad, but if we let the black people go, they will
They would
destroy all
enslave
that is
us,
beautiful in the world. Yeah, it's like, it is the most, like, hackneyed,
God.
awful 2000 centrism, like, both sides nonsense. Like, literally just that meme
That's not real centrism,
of, like,
though, is it?
Huh?
No.
I mean, it's American centrism. It's very
Yes.
much American centrism, where like you have the
Sounds like
KKK on one side, and you have like Black Lives Matter on the other side, and there's like a centrist in the middle saying, "Well, both sides have some problems, you know."
No,
Yes.
those aren't equitable there.
Well, that's how
those
we
aren't
got.
an equitable comparison.
That's-
but okay,
that's-
white people.
That's how we got to where we are today, Fran. I
Oh,
mean, in a
God.
lot of ways, these guys were like way ahead of their time, quite honestly,
Oh,
in like the
no.
worst possible way.
It's like they opened a tear and saw into the future.
Oh my God! It's autobiographical. So I wanna close this chapter of lore, because I want to try and bring an actual moral to this shitty story, and at the very least, condemn the people who wrote this bad one. Let me bring us, much like this story, full circle back to where we began, because I want to talk briefly about the World's Fair, which
Okay.
is
Back to the beginning.
I think this is I'm going to do like a little pitch at the end here of just like what I think a good story could have been, because
I'm for it.
the World's Fair is like a very central theme to the game. It is the literal, like, it is where the city comes from. I mean, it's
Mhm.
no coincidence that the World's Fair, the Columbian Expo, in the
Mhm.
Chicago's World Fair, is the name of the city, and it is very clearly derived aesthetically from that. So to give you a little background about the World's Fair, they are these events, expositions that are supposed to, like, bring forth the best of humanity, right? They are about the sciences and the progresses that we've made throughout the world. The Columbian World Fair was in 1893, and this is, if you're savvy with any American history, was part of the Gilded Age of America, where everyone was talking about how great it was, how there was actually a bunch of socioeconomic issues that were happening in the background no one wanted to talk about
Well, it was
because,
the Industrial Revolution. It's built on the backs of
exactly,
the
slave
poors.
labor
Yeah.
essentially. And so that's where this ideal of the white city came from, because these world fairs are supposed to be temporary, right? They're
Mhm.
expositions. They're like Anime
That's the whole
Expo.
devil in the White City
Yeah,
stuff.
they're
And
they're
yeah.
they're it's like Anime Expo. They're not there year round. And so they would build these big pavilions, but these big pavilions are all made out of like plaster and stucco, which were all white at the time.
Mhm.
So they had these huge neoclassical buildings, but they're all fake. They're just,
Mhm.
they're plaster buildings that are supposed to look nice for the temporary time being. And
Mhm.
specifically, the Chicago World Fair was inundated with a huge amount of African American protesters talking about how there was a lack of representation of any Afro American anything in all of them.
Yeah.
And so outside of the fairgrounds, there were huge protests by black people who were saying, we're not being represented in there. And they were totally right. They were on
Yeah.
purpose not being represented in there. The World's Fair are supposed to be um, these big like shows about progress and how far humanity's come, and like all of these amazing things we've done, and like, look at what science can do, look what can happen when humanity works together to create all these things. But the New York's World Fair was during the Depression era. They were trying to
Mhm.
use it as an opportunity to sell things to get people out of the Depression. And so it became less about science. There were prominent scientists like Einstein during the day who was like, we should use this World Fair as an opportunity to discuss all of the scientific advancements and everything. And all of the people who were funding it were like, no, we're not going to do
No.
that. That's very stupid. We're just
Nope.
going to talk about, you should buy stuff. Just buy things.
Consumerism.
Make it an opportunity to sell things. And then there was another New York's fair only 30 years or so later, which was very famous because it is where people like Ford and
Mhm.
Disney and this other land developer guy named Moses all hung out and basically decided, you know what? We have a very specific idea for what we think American exceptionalism is, which is based on all these ideas of the World Fair, all these like the cloak
Oh
of
no.
progressivism and the idea that industry is going to save us all from being mediocre and all these amazing things, when actually it was like a real estate scam so that the Moses guy could build buildings on the cheap, permanent buildings, not just like the fake ones that they used to build, which is just an absolutely beautiful way to show how it's just a flashy way of trying to look very impressive and trying
Mhm.
to matter and mean something, when in reality it's just a temporary piece of shit that just gets washed away in the rain eventually and has no lasting impact apart from people who already have ideas that line up with the thing it's trying to invoke in the first place. And in a lot of ways, this game is just like that. A shitty attempt to recreate a bunch of Greek architecture that isn't even accurate, that wasn't even real to begin with, just a fake stage version of it. And that is why I think Bioshock Infinite fails on basically every level, and people who like it should really try to analyze it critically and think to themselves about why this is probably not a very good representation of something you want to be represented by.
But oh boy, I can't wait till Bioshock 4.
Yeah, well,
Did he even get approved for one?
there's a spiritual successor coming. I'm sure it's going to be great. So that's, I think, where we're going to end on a very sour, a very cynical note. Also,
I mean, that's where we started, so.
I would be I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that the reason people like neoclassical stuff is for a whole bunch of really racist reasons also. Because of all of the cradles of humanity, the Greek one is the whitest one. And so they really like that stuff.
It's
For
back in
some-
the good
for
old
s-
days,
for
right?
some
That's
reason.
the big thing.
Yeah, if you ever hear a person say that art is degenerate, Lizzie tells me that that's a Nazi term for basically calling all not white stuff bad. So
Hell yeah.
here's where we are.
It's all very good. It all links into each other. Just a nice little cherry on top for you there, CJ. The World's Fairs were started in the first place by Prince Albert because the United Kingdoms had just taken away all of the political power of the monarchy, but they were worried that the people would also then vote to take away their money. So they did a bunch of fake bullshit,
Look how
like
cool
public
we are.
work stuff. Yeah, one of which was the World's Fair, so that people would say, "No, we should keep the monarchy around. They're good people. They deserve our tax dollars still because of this."
Well, all of this would have been great themes for this video game that just never crossed the people who made its mind. Not once.
I guess you asked me to rate this at the end.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
very
yeah,
interested,
yeah.
Based on story alone, not great.
No,
Not
would
great.
you? What would you?
If you let's pretend that these writers are your students, Fran. What do you write on the top of this paper?
Okay, so I score my students on 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 is proficient, 4 is
fucking
mastery,
schools these days.
2
God.
is approaching or developing, and then 1 is minimal.
Okay.
And a 0 is reserved for
Well, they did make a game.
not doing it.
Yeah, they did
Yeah,
make a game. We have
so-
to admit they made a video game.
I'm gonna go with I can give it a 2.
I can
They-
see. I can
Okay,
understand
yeah, I
that.
can see it too.
They attempted.
Uh-huh.
They attempted a lot, but they just weren't
Is-
quite there. And they
Is this-
really
this is
couldn't
like-
tie it together.
This is like a 2, but also with a note next to it that says, "Let's talk about this
See
after
me?
class."
Yeah.
We're gonna have to make a lot of revisions.
Like I said,
It's like an overall 2, but like there's a rubric where like a lot of the categories were like at a 1.
this
But
is
like
the
overall,
Yeah.
barely a 2 situation.
right. Yeah, that was like I said, I think this is the first instance of me not liking something going into the episode and then me liking it
It just got
less
worse.
after I
Got
had
worse.
researched into it. So
Because I remember people being so excited for this game.
yeah, that's what gets
I
me. It's
remember
like this
that
is
part.
some people's favorite game or like at least favorite Bioshock game, and it just
Oh, it's rough.
I truly urge you to if like a story element doesn't make sense, don't assume it's just really good. Actually do the opposite and assume it's probably pretty bad.
I'm a
because
really
it
big
probably is.
proponent of the Elizabeth that just was setting the world on fire at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
feel
I'll
like
go
that was
for
an
it.
okay outcome.
That feels like that's appropriate.
I don't know why we had to stop
God.
that. I feel like
Well,
it needed
it's-
to happen.
It's pretty heavy when like you play through this game and then I look back and say, BioShock 2 did this a lot better.
Yeah, it's rough, but that's going to be the end of this episode of The Lore You Know, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around, learning with us, laughing with us, loving with us. And
outraged
sometimes
with
hate on
us.
some stuff with us. That's a lot of fun too. We want to thank Galestorm Kitsune for doing the artwork for the channel, and we want to thank Apajo for doing the music. That's it. I tell your loved ones that you love them, Um
Mm.
I'm gonna have to think of a pithy outro. As usual, how we always get to the end. We definitely know how to end the episode. So I'll do my sign off slowly so that I can have plenty of time to think about it. And then that will give me time. Okay, I think I've got it. I've been CJ,
And I've been Ethan.
And I've been Fran.
and my outro is, oh no, what's happening? Ah! Don't worry. I'm a different CJ. The ending was bad, so me doing this is actually better than the ending you guys were gonna get. So just get out of here. Don't worry. Don't think about it.
It
It's
does
very
work
heady.
because
I'm
you
sor-
are part
I'm
Indian
sorry.
and part white.
I can't hear
I'm
you
sorry,
guys. My
CJ,
headphones off
but
for this bit.
you must die in every universe for us to be
No!
saved.